Oh, hey, welcome to another edition of Socrates Explains Everything. My name is Socrates. Still like explaining things. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the U.S. debt limit. Now that the House of Representatives have been taken over by the GOP, we're going to hear a lot about the debt limit and what does it mean, why do we care, and how can it affect the entire world. But yeah, basically I had my surgery a couple weeks ago and hanging out here in the house because unfortunately I can't walk, so I need one of these to stroll around. So spent the last month or so here, kind of bored, not exactly encouraging. So I thought today I'd spend some more time talking about something boring, like the U.S. debt limit and why it matters. Yeah, well, years ago, because of the endless increasing national debt, because the U.S. runs a perpetual deficit, we don't have a balanced budget every year. We spend more than we make, so every year the national debt goes up. So to try to encourage them to stop doing it, which for various economic reasons they never will, they instituted a thing called the national debt limit. And the ceiling max is the maximum amount of money that the U.S. can borrow. And so, of course, because borrowing is and spending is basically the result of Congress passing laws. When Congress passes a law to fund something or to tax or to cut a tax, this directly affects the amount of money in the budget. And so when Congress passes a huge tax cut, that's going to cause the deficit to go up. And every year, the tax cut will need to be paid for somehow and by more and more borrowing. So under the GOP, under Donald Trump, from the 4 years of Trump, they added $8 trillion to the national debt. And a lot of that was unfunded. The tax, massive corporation tax they gave to the wealthy and the corporates, it's not funded. It's not offset by spending elsewhere. It's not increasing revenue to pay for itself. So every year, there's more and more debt. So the national debt ceiling has to be raised just to cover the tax cut. Military spending, the U.S. spends $1 trillion+ a year on the military. Has to be paid for somewhere. If it's not budgeted, the debt goes up. So you have to raise the national debt ceiling. It's essentially contract spending. They've gone ahead and they've contracted out all this money. They've agreed that they're going to spend it. You know, it's like buying a car on a lease or on a payment plan. You still have to pay for it. And if you haven't balanced your budget, that money's got to come from somewhere every single year. The whole thing basically comes down to that the GOP has this concept that they've talked about from the 80s called starve the beast. Because unfortunately, they don't see the government as a good thing. As you can see, most conservatives are anti-government. They want to destroy government. They see government as somehow preventing them from making their money. Regulations and laws and things. It's insanity. The government is what allowed them to make money in the first place. So they actually believe that if you hurt the economy bad enough, starving the beast, and the beast is the government, if they deny the government enough money and increase the debt high enough, our natural and obvious reaction will be to cut Social Security, which is spending on old people who are retired so they don't starve to death, and Medicare, which is medicine for old people and poor people and sick people. They think that out of all the spending the government does, that our reaction will be to starve old and sick people. They've believed this since the 80s. Of course, the obvious truth is if we really had to do something for the budget, we would cut defense spending and we would raise taxes on the wealthy and the corporations. Exactly what they think is, wouldn't happen. Excuse me. Unfortunately, so much of the situation is that it's based on corruption and short-sightedness. They have successfully taken over pieces of the government and funneled money their way, which is, if not crony corruption, at the very least, it's cronyism, And they believe strongly that they have to get rid of all regulations. This is another one of their big pushes right now. You'll see, just recently, in fact, they talked about getting rid of Social Security and Medicare. This is actually one of their big platforms when they're talking about specifically the debt ceiling in their negotiations, because they figured they could hold the government, over a barrel and force us to cut Social Security and Medicare. They say the loud part, the quiet part out loud. Again, regulations is another one of the things that they hate. But regulations are not proactive. We don't regulate things for no reason. We regulate things because a corporation, generally speaking, or a person did something really horrible, so bad that we had to make a law so it wouldn't happen again. Let's see. So yeah, at this point, with the debt limit, it's a false argument in the first place, because if you don't raise a debt ceiling, then the government defaults on its loans, which they did once, or came close enough to it that they then raised the interest rates. So suddenly, all of our national debt costs more money. We spend like is it half a million, or half a trillion dollars? I have to relook it up. It's hundreds of billions of dollars on interest alone. It's insane how much money is being wasted on this process of burying us in debt. Like I said, in 2016, we had $20 trillion worth of debt in the U.S., and in 4 years under Trump, they added $8 trillion more of debt to it. 40% increase in 4 years. It's unheard of in the history of borrowing money. We didn't go to war. We didn't go to the moon. We didn't change the entire energy system of the U.S. We didn't revolutionize anything. They spent it on nothingness, on tax cuts for wealthy, and the wealthy got so much wealthier. It's really quite insane. And the problem is, all this money being concentrated into smaller and smaller hands has an ultimate power to corrupt. When you think about any country, even a small one, has more than enough money to corrupt any individual. And now we have individual people who have more money than many different countries. When somebody has billion plus dollars, they can pay anything for anybody to do anything. And they have the power of corruption in their hands. And they've used this power to overtake the governments. And it's so short-sighted because they think that if they can get rid of the government, then suddenly they'll make even more money. There won't be money. The money itself is a scam of mathematical trickery. We all accept that money has value. We all accepted crypto had value until we didn't. And history is littered with money going from valuable to valueless. It's just an agreement we have that this is money. We used to have guilders here in the Netherlands. We don't anymore because we agreed that it's no longer money. The system is a fake thing that we all make happen as a group. And at this point, a very small number of people are squeezing the system and potentially destroying it for everybody, including themselves. Not even realizing that the earth at this moment needs our attention, that the environment is going to make all of these things impossible, that there won't be economy, there won't be debt. These things won't exist soon because the earth and the environment will make economy impossible. Look how much it's already impacting everything. It's insanity that people won't wake up and change their attitude towards this thing. But in the end, the earth itself won't care. I think we'll see what happens going forward. I'm an old guy, so I personally don't care. But you're going to hear a lot about this debt ceiling, and politics has just become theater, because the more you can pay attention to things that don't matter, the least you pay attention to things that actually do matter. And in the end, the debt ceiling is meaningless. The environment's meaningful. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to heal up, see if I can walk again. What's going to happen going forward? I'm glad I'm a comedian, because I think it's all a big joke. Anyway, this was me explaining something. Is that better than stopping somewhere? I prefer to stop at some cool place on my bicycle. I miss riding the bike. So anyway, I'll see you guys hopefully out there somewhere soon. Peace and debts on.